months. I don't know, like preparing for Tuesday, like sort of having preliminary conversations like, hey, if I have an interest in this guy, what are we looking at? Da-da-da-da-da, kicking tires, that kind of thing. I would not want one football game, regardless of how good it looks. Keon Coleman has a great game, right? Like, Keon Coleman has the Gabe Davis against the Chiefs game in the 21 playoffs.
Well.
All right, that's insane. That's too much of an exaggeration. But has a good game. Do I then think, I'm all set at receiver? I don't know. It's one game. You know, he looked good for the fourth quarter against Baltimore, and it's kind of fallen off a cliff since then. I wouldn't want to trust one good game. If I think I need a receiver, I think I'm still going to think I need a receiver. Not, that's not going to be quenched by, having a good game against the Chiefs on Sunday myself.
Yeah, I wonder what could change anything here this week. Alex Gold with us from Kansas City. Been a long time. Nice talking to you again finally, Alex.
Yeah, I know. We just don't talk enough. If only we had some big football games over the last couple of years to talk about.
I told him on his show with Cody today that I think, here it's got to be maybe some function of what kind of show you're doing. But we, maybe call Alex every other month during the off season, not quite every month. There's a Kansas City obsession here. It's they're to blame for how the Bills have not gone farther, and they never call me. And I do not take that personally, but I don't think they're worried about us.
No, when you've got 3 championships, you don't have to worry about the team that's chasing you. You're out front, hanging out, enjoying the view.
I was on today. They called today because of this game on Sunday.
Look, Mike,
Alex, what? Go ahead.
That is true. I will say, and you know this, in the summertime, unless there's something, massive that happens trade-wise probably involving the Bills, we do a lot of baseball talk in the summer here in Kansas City with the Royals, and so we don't really go too deep into everybody else in the NFL until we get, to game week. It's nothing personal, I promise.
No, I know. You would never have me back if it were personal. What's your attitude about this week's game?
Right. Go ahead. Fine.
Look, I think it's interesting because if it wasn't for the fact that the Chiefs had 3 losses and a Broncos team leading their division, I would say probably, all right, well, this game, it doesn't mean a whole lot. The Bills can win the regular season. That's what they do. And then Chiefs fans will key in and say, well, come playoff time, that's what matters. I think there's still some of that thought here, but at the same time, the Chiefs do have 3 losses. They got a Broncos and Chargers team in front of them in the AFC West. Obviously, on the Bills side, you guys are dealing with the Patriots being atop the division. And so this is a game, I think it's early to say must win. Well, must win for the number 1 seed conversation, I think. But I don't know if it's still must win even for the division for either teams. So it's a massive game because of both teams, being in a spot maybe they're not as used to, where usually one of them's undefeated, the other might have 1 loss. Instead, it's a 3-loss and a 2-loss team.
Yeah, maybe a little more urgency on the Buffalo side of this, Alex, because the Bills have already lost once head-to-head to the team that's in first place, the Patriots, whereas the Chiefs have still got 2 games left with the Broncos.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The Chiefs have, at this point, the 1 loss to the Chargers. Nobody in Kansas City takes the Chargers as seriously. I think there's the Broncos. People want to see a little bit more for them, and people view the Broncos as the second-best team. So the Chiefs have a little bit more runway, I guess, with what people perceive to be their biggest challenger in their division versus what you guys were just talking about there with the Patriots.
With Alex Gold. So the Chiefs have looked fine here recently after a tougher start. Is it as good as it has looked in these last couple of weeks with Worthy and then Rice back? And now you have the Pacheco loss. I wonder if you think that'll mean a lot.
So I think it has been as good as people see when they just look at a box score and they just look at some of the stats over the last couple of weeks. And, over the last 3 weeks, I think they're the number 3, number 4 offense in football and points per game. They're an offense now that is also ultra aggressive. And I think that is the part that everybody's most excited about here. Yes, having Rice back is huge, and he's their yards after the catch guy, and the offense runs through him, and Mahomes is locked in. But in the past, even in years when they've been a 15-win team, when they've gotten to Super Bowls, the the big question always was Andy Reid's aggressiveness, and would he be able to keep the foot on the gas on fourth downs and not play a little more conservative. And this year, guys, they already have 10 fourth down conversions. No team in the first 8 weeks of the season has ever reached that mark, since they've tracked that, since 2000 or so. The only teams that have got to 9 were the Eagles last year and the Eagles in 2022, and we all know they do the tush-push. So, yes, I think it's real, and the aggressiveness on fourth down is a huge part of it. I mean, it's kind of this cheat code that Andy Reid has unlocked that, what took so long to recognize that you got the best quarterback in the world, and you maybe should force teams to stop you on fourth downs, and it's very difficult to do that. And on the flip side, they are not giving up many fourth down conversions. They're only giving up 20% on fourth downs on defense. So everything is definitely real, but you brought up Pacheco. As far as that goes, yeah, he's been much better the last 3 weeks. They've kind of got this true running back by committee complementary run game going where they're pacing run-wise to have their best backfield since 2015, so the best in the Mahomes era. But it's not like Pacheco is anywhere near the back, obviously, James Cook is. They've just been able to find a role. Pacheco is really effective as kind of a bit more of the bell cow. Kareem Hunt, short yardage, one of the best in football. In fact, the best in football in short yardage. And then they got a rookie in Brashard Smith who is explosive. They're slowly integrating him. The stats are not going to jump out yet, but if you guys watch him carry the football or catch it, more importantly, I think at times, you'll see why fans are excited. So I do think they lose something without Pacheco. The thought here is that the rookie is going to be asked to do a little bit more, and we'll see if that is something he can shoulder.
Interesting point on fourth downs. I watched only the second half of the Monday night game, but when they got to fourth and goal at the 2, after a third down incompletion at 7-7, I'm like, they're not going to go for this. But they did and scored on that, so probably the right call by the numbers. Just don't always see Kansas City do it. I've got them at 14 for 17 on the season on fourth down. So, yeah, that's something to watch for. So what's your impression, Alex, of the Bills at this stage? I mean, of course, we all know the history and the history together very well. I think, I referred to the betting markets when talking to you earlier. I think for them to lose 2 games and lose the lead in the division, then have a bye and come out of it and win 40-9 against a team that, it's Carolina, but they were also 4-3. That didn't really seem to impress anybody in terms of the spread, or I would say that, Bulldog, about our audience.
For sure.
It has not been, all is well kind of a week.
Yeah, no, and look, admittedly, I wasn't impressed, mainly because the Andy Dalton part of the equation with being the Carolina Panthers. I mean, look, heading into the game, I said on my show, we were discussing how we even feel about this Bills game coming up. And I said, I want to see what they look like against Carolina. Did they solve some things defensively? But then once you find out it's Andy Dalton and you watch the game, it's like, how much can I take away defensively from what they did? Now, offensively, I mean, I think anybody sleeping on Josh Allen is making a massive mistake. I think people have done that the last couple of years on Mahomes, and usually it comes back to bite them in the you-know-what. So I think people have to be very careful in Kansas City if they are suddenly discussing Josh Allen like he's still not that dude. To me, he's easily the second-best quarterback in football. James Cook, I think everybody understands who he is. I think here in Kansas City, people aren't as worried on the ground, though, I must admit, about Cook, just because they have, to this point, handled Saquon, handled Derrick Henry, handled Ashton Genty. I can go on and on and on. They've done a really good job against top backs. My worry more about Cook is in the passing game, and I don't know how you guys talk about him there. I think that's the area the Chiefs are vulnerable, that James Cook in the flat against some of these linebackers for Kansas City. I think that is an area they can have success. And then the area we always know in these games, Josh Allen with his legs. The Chiefs have struggled against quarterbacks that can run, and nobody can run better than Josh Allen that they faced this year. And that's an area where Trevor Lawrence has got them a little bit. So that'd be a concern. But I must say, defensively, that's where how I've talked about the Bills this week, at least in Kansas City, is so different over the last couple of years. I don't think that defense is good at all in Buffalo. And I think it's the worst defense that since we've been doing these radio hits, since Patrick Mahomes has been around, that he's faced in this Bills rivalry. Now, maybe they have their A game, and that happens a lot in these type of games where the Bills defense maybe puts together their best performance. I just don't see it. You guys know the injuries that exist better than I do there on top of it. And so I think Kansas City offensively is going to be very, very difficult to stop. And is Josh Allen capable of going toe-to-toe? Look, I think he has shown in his career he can. I just think the defense in Kansas City is quite a bit better than the Bills. And so even if you're talking about one more stop, I think that's enough.
Well, there's a lot there. If the Bills were to feature James Cook or any running back in the passing game on Sunday against the Chiefs, it would be the first time this season that it's happened. Cook has caught a total of 12 passes. He barely exists in the passing game. And their third down back, Ty Johnson, I think has 2 receptions on the year or maybe 3.
Wow.
They're just not featuring that at all. Now, I don't know. Maybe someone driving around in their car right now on their way to happy hour is hoping the Bills have been squatting on that all this time until they can spring it on the Chiefs, but I don't know, man.
Or someone who's been sitting here at happy hour since 3 hours
since
ago.
we got here, yeah. The passing offense in general has been a real sore spot here for the Bills. So if they do need to sort of get in a gunfight with the Chiefs, I think a lot of Bills fans would be sort of curled up in a ball hoping they can get through it.
It's the most confidence, I can tell you from Chiefs fans going into one of these matchups in a while. Chiefs fans have, picked them to win these playoff games and things like that. And, we know the history there. But I think for a regular season game, just based off of a lot of this is you asked Chiefs fans a month ago, of course, different feeling. The offense wasn't rolling and all that. But with the way the Chiefs are playing and knowing some of the injuries there defensively, I think a lot of folks in Kansas City are very, very confident in how they're going to perform on Sunday and get a win.
How about injury stuff with the Chiefs, Alex? And even non-injury stuff, right? The left tackle, Simmons, is he still not around and not expected to play? And what about the rest of the injury report there?
So as far as Josh Simmons is the top pick in the draft for the Chiefs, he's still away from the team. He's definitely not playing. There's some talk maybe after the bye he'll at least be back with the team. It's a very strange scenario, quite honestly. We still don't know exactly what is going on. Everybody kind of has a little bit of a rough idea, but nobody has enough information, frankly, to really throw it out there.
Yep.
It's a family matter, but also they've been misleading on that at times, so he's not going to play. Jalen Moore, who they signed in the offseason before they drafted Simmons, just in case they couldn't get Simmons or he wasn't healthy, has done a very nice job actually filling in. He had a rough first drive against Washington, I would say, on Monday Night Football, but it seems like they feel pretty good with Jalen Moore there. Other injuries on the O-line, Trey Smith, they believe he's headed in the right direction to play on Sunday. He did not play last week with some back spasms, lower back injury, and for an offensive lineman, you always wonder if that's something that lingers. I think, is there a chance it still pops up tomorrow morning or something? Sure, it's a back injury, but it looks like he'll play. And then the right tackle, Juwan Taylor, he's healthy. He's been a huge story for a couple of years with being the most penalized player in football and lining up wrong and all this. He's been one of the best right tackles in football the last 4 weeks. He's not getting penalized, and so that's a huge development. And then other injuries, for Kansas City, we already mentioned Pacheco. They will get Hollywood Brown for this game. He was sick earlier in the week, and looks like he's going to be fine.
Alex, one more. Just whenever we have these conversations during the regular season, of course in the playoffs, it would be like this. These are the 2 top teams, or 2 of the top 3, or 4 even, I guess, back to the Bengals, moments. But now you've got Denver, New England, of course, Indianapolis. You don't have to, you can keep this short because we've kept you a while, but is your perspective on the AFC, the Chiefs, or even the Bills' chances different than usual?
Not yet. Not yet, it's not, because I want to see what Indy does, quite honestly, guys, against the Chiefs in a couple weeks. I've been called a Colts hater in town and everything. I admittedly, probably have been hating on the Colts a little bit. I'm still not convinced when we talk postseason football, guys, and I got Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Is Daniel Jones really, he's going to be the guy that emerges between the two of them? I know there's always outliers. Maybe it's one of those years. I think the Colts would have to come in and beat Kansas City at Arrowhead in a couple weeks for me to to obviously change my tune on that. New England, I love what I'm seeing from Drake May. I don't think necessarily in year 2 he's going to just leapfrog Mahomes and Allen, but to me, they are a little bit more real offensively. I think their defense has a ways to go. And then Denver, it's the opposite. I don't know about their offense and Bo Nix. For 3 quarters, he'll look poor, and then he'll have an amazing fourth quarter. We know what their defense is capable of. So if I had to rank out like how much I trust these other teams outside of Kansas City and Buffalo, I guess I would trust Denver the next most. Then it would probably be almost a tie between Indy and New England. I can't get past the Daniel Jones part of it, guys. I really can't. I want to see a team shut down Jonathan Taylor if they can or hold him down. What happens if Daniel Jones has to go truly win a football game in the fourth quarter in January? And I just don't believe that's going to happen.
Love it. And they are in Kansas City in 3 weeks. Bye week at Denver, and then the Colts are what the Chiefs have after this one. Not to rush you. Alex, thanks as always. I was happy to be on with you today, and we always love having you on here.
Hey, thanks, guys. We'll talk in January.
That's a date. Alex Gold
is probably right
from Kansas City. I want to say something about the Colts. Can we fit this in at some point?
It's only 4:25. Yeah, we got all kinds of time.
All right.
Yeah.
I do have Colts thoughts,
right.
Even though they're not even on our schedule.
Right.
803-0550 to call in. We're at Neighbors Pub, Kenmore Avenue, Football Friday on WGR. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.